poem tries to do is capture the nature of that in the rhythms of the poem. It's called Bad Chemicals. I sat upon some bricks and struck a match against the wall to light the fag between my lips above the city where we sleep, above the cradle of our lives, above the net of all our thoughts. And there I pondered on a spell that had its fingers round my guts, that cast a mist across my brain, and there it wandered like a ghost across my vision of the streets, across the memories of my friends, a spell that coloured my whole self, a paint I could not shake or drain, a misty lens I could not clear, a goblin in my belly pounding fists upon my heart with knotted muscle in his wrists, a brutal bulwark in my soul that tugged my tongue and kicked my insides just for fun, so that the thumping of my blood became the firing of his gun, became the throbbing of his sniggers, tempting what I might become. If I lingered in his fingers, finding fault with all my friends, biting bigger bitter bullets, pitter-patter down my throat, so I mumble many murmurs, minding much of what I know, and I thrash, and I squat, and I pace in his den, an ingrown goblin like an organ I never want to see again, like a phantom sense of dread, threadbare nightmares out of reach, snap my silent sense of self and suck my soul across the sea, and leave me desolately, definitely, evidently lost. I battle with the brittle bit of better in myself, housing haunted houses such to silence, sitting on a shelf, clogging up my throat, a stopped cough block that I cannot clear or break, vague hate drains my mind in a fog that I can't shake, rage from my pen, putting cancer on a page, the only stage I can fill, flinging darkness at my age, rolling shadows around my tongue, battle fought but never won, behind my eyes there is no sun, my bones are drained of all their fun, my dogged heart it weighs a ton, until I cannot carry on, until alone the only one, I hear a wordless saviour song, a faceless melody inside of me, filling me with harmony, like a snowflake on my mind, the meaning I can't find, the meaning I don't need, it addresses my chemicals, receptacles for a second sort of perspective of essentials, my hormones switch, like the machine that I am, a robot body at the mercy of my glands, that see fit to squeeze dark thoughts into me, then recede when I almost fail to breathe, and up the levels of dopamine like the second round of a weird tag team that pins me down, then lifts me up. My brain dazed asks, what's the fuck of my plans, when the landscape of you is out of my hands? Behind the words I understand are latent feelings which command me, they unhinge me, they impinge me, and from time to time I find they singe me, but they are me. My consciousness is the surface, and I float in the currents of a chemical sea. Which is really the only way I can express why I love a stonking great Domino's pizza. The bigger, the greasier, the more sodden, the better. I mean, Jesus, I love Domino's pizza. My brain says, Darren, you're going to regret that. It's going to clog your arteries and make you sweat. And then a picture of that really healthy looking guy from Embarrassing Bodies pops into my mind, shaking his head disapprovingly. A dialogue ensues and I say, yeah, but have you ever chowed down on a chicken feast pizza the size of a Jack Russell? And he just looks well sheepish and mumbles something about going for a run. Consciousness doesn't come into it. When I eat pizza, I'm Mr. fucking Zen. I'm like Jesus and Gandhi getting high in a lava lamp. I'm like Brian Cox's voice when he's talking about the stars. I am joking, it's not about pizza, it's about the little things. That messy ball that consumes us all, that goblin that thumps your guts when you're at your darkest, is terrified of little inexplicable pleasures that makes you who you are. A kiss, a sunrise, a slice of pizza can pop that goblin and deflate him to a saggy little shit. You can't think your bad chemicals better, you just have to find some sparks and stoke them, find some flames and fan them. Your brain is at the mercy of your body, so when you're feeling cold as ice, find something small, something inexplicable that makes you smile, and start a fire. Hopefully it achieves that. My peers are pilled out of their heads as we pull up to the club in a train of hubbub and faces the colour of rhubarb because it's cold on the seafront, where the clubs roll their music out like drum and bass lighthouses. The girl I like has a skirt like a belt, but she looks stupid because it's freezing. And her knees are trembling like she's holding in a wee. She probably is. Like I said, they're all off their heads, but I'm not. I'm sober as fuck. I'm on a different kind of drug. I'm a thinker, baby. I'm a man of mystery. Yes, that is indeed a novel poking out of the back pocket of my oversized jeans. I mean, I'm existentially sensual, notepad and pencil, intellectually reprehensible. Come close and I'll whisper something sensible. You talk with your body, I dance with my words, and whilst everyone is grinding and it's a balls out, pills out blur, I'm leaning across the bar like Heathcliff on acid. I'm asking you questions about the meaning of life whilst fanning myself with the Great Gatsby. There's a girl curled around a Bacardi and Coke, she slurs, you just fucking shit, aren't ya? She's hooked. She liked the look of me in my book, and now she's idling my collar with a sloppy hand. Juliet, it's Romeo, I bet she understands. Like a badly punctuated sentence, we stumble along. She halts for a vomit Caesura, and then we buy fish and chips. Sexy fish and chips. Metonymic fish and chips, the sort of symbolic, imagistic fish and chips that an entire novel could hinge on. I mean, these fish and chips were like the eyes of T.J. Eckelberg. In a greasy, greasy spoon, I pen her a love poem on a polystyrene cup of coffee. It is the greatest love poem never seen by human eyes. It was inextricable and captured the essence of the sky. It dazzled and stung and worked the tongue into a notch that resembled the human heart. Lazily, she used it to wipe the grease off her lips, perhaps as if trying to imbibe the lines and ink onto her lips so that perhaps they could spring forth one day as a call to war. She burped and a tiny piece of chicken landed on my thumb. I came on strong like an oxymoron, cold as steam, burning like a snowflake. I held a napkin to her like a dove as she spilled water on the table in a metaphor so mixed that my heart hurt. We took a taxi back to my place, that's textbook stuff, it's in the bedroom where things get sexy. She takes off her coat and then sits next to me and we slither under the covers effortlessly. I know she's in the mood because she's curling up her toes. I reach behind her and find a rousing piece of prose. As I read her the polemic, we switch off the lights, and the rest is academic. Thank you. Not Mick Jagger, not Kurt Cobain, not any rock star from any age. There's no guitar and there's no drums. Instead, please welcome a poet to the stage. But I promise you a poet can be a rock star too. I know it sounds strange, but bear with me. Let's put rock and roll back into poetry. A poet's after party isn't filled with girls. The cocaine's sparse and you may laugh, but it might just change the world. And we've got our own rock concert in here tonight with a poet, a poem, a crowd, and a mic. So be generous when you pass around the crack, and let's get a mosh pit started out at the back. Put your lighters in the air and clap your hands. I'm telling you, your poet is a one-man band who can still lead you to the stairway to heaven. So turn this microphone up to 11, because poets have alphabet scales and semantic chords, and accompanied lyrics sharper than swords. Country, ballad, swing, and blues. We poets share the instruments that a rock band uses. My tongue becomes a plectrum, plucking at your heartstrings, mimicking the front man, standing as he sings. And poets share the snare drum, the rat-a-tat-tat that snaps through the verses, like that, like that, like that. And the double bass drum pedal, using thrash metal that won't let you settle as a test of our metal, but another thing a poet can bring to the table. And poets can do solos with intricate rhyme that sticks in your head and still stays in time, that flicks in the larynx and kicks at the meter to the end of the line. And we can do harmonies, with subtext that confirms or denies the immediate context. And we got the boom of the bass line brought from the back that beats with your bodies and pounds like a bat. And the rhythm can rise, and the rhythm can fall. Sometimes if the poet's feeling lazy, they won't even bother using rhythm. Because the poet's after party isn't filled with girls, the cocaine's sparse, and you may laugh, but it might just change the world. Bon Scott, Steve Tyler, and Hendrix were rock stars through and through, but poetry has legends of literature who knew how to party too. We've got Seamus Heaney licking toads by a flaxdown, Shelley using gin as a milk substitute, old Shakespeare dropping beats like bombs, and Byron probably snorting coke off a prostitute. Keats, like Nick Drake, unappreciated in his time, John Milton rocking on, writing though he's blind, the voices of these giants glitter bright like stars, and reverberate the world as loud as any electric guitar. A poet's after party isn't filled with girls, but there's music in words that a poet can unlock. And it's the rhythm of language which they used to rock, so no. A poet's after party isn't filled with girls, but a poet's after party might just change the world. Thank you.